All right, what's up, everybody? We are back here again, week number 9 of Backyard Bookie. Scott, last week of October, all to play for. It's been really, really close, and there's a lot of ugly lines. I don't think either of us like any of our picks this week.
No, these lines are pretty spooky. Not looking good for either one of us last week. I got one right. You got two right, so you made one back. But I was overall 2-9 with all my picks. Not looking good for the program in the last week, but looking to bounce back. Like you said, don't love these lines this week. I even tried to kind of look at NBA lines a little bit, and I'm just like, I'm not even gonna touch those for
Too early.
game number 2 for a lot of teams. Then you got the World Series. I'm like, I don't know what to do with the World Series. I'm just gonna enjoy that one. Go Rangers. But going back to college football this week for me, I am done picking NFL. I was 0-3 last week, so we're retiring from the National Football League spread and total picks. So back to my bread and butter. But let's see if we can actually get a couple right this week.
All right, so I had a mess up on the score last week. I'm a bad editor. I put our weekly scores last week. We have the total scores. I had to keep track of them. Scott's got 11. I got 9.5. Everything to play for. 1.5 games. It's going to be close. But give me your first game for the week, Scott.
Yeah, like you said, we both hate these picks this week. We haven't told each other our picks yet. But my first one kind of stood out a little bit. I have Houston, Kansas State. Kansas State is 17.5-point favorites against Houston. Houston just came off a interesting loss to Texas. They lost Quinn Ewers and tried to come back and tried to fight back and win that game. But
officials may have made sure Texas won that game. That was one of the worst spots you'll ever see.
Got to the red zone and didn't get the touchdown for the tie, but that was one of the ones I got right, so good for me. But anywho, right now Kansas State is weirdly good. I haven't watched much of their games, but coming off a huge win against TCU by 38 points, they're only 5.5-point favorites in that one. Beating Tech at Tech, they were only 1-point favorites. They win by 17, so they're covering spreads pretty handily, and as well as they're 4-0 at home against the spread. So that looks pretty good. Houston, I think it's a little fluky that they were staying in the Texas game, and Manhattan's not a fun place to play. I'm not sure what the weather looks like, but yeah, it's gonna be a little cold, a little windy, and I feel like that's what Kansas State's kind of built for a little bit. So I like. I sort of like. I don't love it, but 17.5. We're gonna go ahead and take that. I think Houston, they used a bunch of energy to try and beat the Longhorns at home, and they got another tough road game against a pretty good team. So I'm going to take Kansas State minus 17.5.
Yeah, that's a big number for me, but Houston's kind of been a roller coaster. If you catch Houston on a good week, we've beat West Virginia, good against Texas, but they've been pretty awful in some of their losses. They've been absolutely housed. So this is an interesting spot. I don't think Kansas State can get into the Big 12 title game anymore, so maybe who knows what that is, but yeah, we'll see. I don't love playing Big 12 big spreads, especially with, a Kansas State team who I saw lose to Oklahoma State. But Houston could be bad, so that's definitely on the table for that. I went really dirty with my games. Like, we dug deep. I don't think I took a real football game this week. I bet against this team, or I bet kind of for this team last week. I took their over last week. Everyone's watching this game. This is the biggest game of the weekend. Everyone's going to be tuned into this game. We got UMass at Army. Big game this weekend. I had, the only success I really had last week was betting against bad defenses. And UMass is the worst rushing defense in the country. They're ranked 131st. That's pretty much awful. Army, 27th in rushing. They run the triple option. It works. Now, it didn't work against LSU, but LSU just out-athleted them. Also, Army's starting quarterback didn't play last week against LSU. I was thinking he was going to play. They said he was going to play. He just didn't play. I'm assuming he's going to be back this week. The backup's been terrible. He filled in the game before in the second half. And, I looked at his stats. This might be the worst kid ever, but go serve our country, brother. Just don't play quarterback anymore. So hopefully, it looks like Army's quarterback's going to be back starting here. And UMass is just bad. They're 1-7. They're getting housed by awful teams. Toledo, Arkansas State. They're like 63-0 to Penn State. Army hasn't been great. It's definitely a down year for Army because Army's been kind of decent, but they need this game to get bowl eligible. And I think this is just kind of a mismatch. Like, Army's not horrendous. They can run the ball. They've also played UMass 3 times since 2019, and they've beat them like 130-20 in the point differential. So they just dominate UMass. Like, this is a team that Army seems to have their number. UMass cannot stop the triple option. So it's 9.5, which it's a big number for a service academy, but it's under the 10, which I really, really like. I think Army wins this game pretty comfortably just to make sure they can kind of get towards moving towards a bowl game. They need a win. Yeah, so I'm going to go with Army minus 9.5 at home against arguably the worst team in the country. Maybe Sam Houston's probably the worst team in the country right now, D1. But yeah, I think they're just going to be able to run the ball. They've dominated this 3 times since 2019. That's a large enough sample for me.
Yeah, last 3 times they played, it's been pretty much housing for Army. But yeah, 9.5. I kind of like that play. Both teams not great against the spread, but in this game, I mean, I'm going to take Army because, I mean, 1-7 as well as, you know, UMass 5 straight, like probably 6 straight losses. The only worry is probably last 3 games for Army against the spread, 0-3. They played pretty decent teams, and then they haven't scored in the last 2 games. So
new quarterback. They got to get their starting quarterback back.
I do like the 9.5 though. It's I'd even probably take 17 with UMass. I don't see them getting coached up enough to stop Army, even though they're not the team they used to be in the last couple of years. But for my second pick, I was debating going to this game. Well, I wasn't debating going to. Me and my dad were talking about going to, but never pulled the trigger. Big game in Salt Lake City, Oregon and Utah. Right now, let's see. The total for me looks like 47.5. I think we're looking at, let's see.
Yeah, 47.
Yeah, 6.5 is the spread, Oregon. This is just a weird. The thing with Oregon is they score, but I feel like every time they score in the first half, they try and go for 2 at some point. So the total is kind of a strange number. You can, I mean, you go for 2, and then Utah would have to score and then go for 2 again. They don't score. It's 8-6, and then as you get further into the game, the margins get really weird, and most teams have to score a touchdown. So it's gonna be one of those games that teams are gonna have to keep scoring because Oregon's just gonna do their weird Dan Lanning go for 2 randomly and go up 15 or go up 8. It's really strange the way he does things, but 47.5 is the total. I'm going to take the over. Utah did score a lot of points against USC. Granted, it is USC. Oregon is a much better defense than USC, as we probably all know. We've watched USC, and they are pathetic. But Barnes, their quarterback, looked like he kind of knew what he was doing a little bit. Playing at home is probably going to help him out a little bit. And I feel like, you know, Bo Nix is going to score regardless of, you know, their pretty stout defense. We know Utah, they do have pretty good defense, and, you know, 14-21, 7-7 before the USC game is, you know, pretty good defense. But I think they kind of back up a little bit. They're playing a very, very experienced quarterback with Bo Nix, so he'll know how to throw the ball around. And they're great on offense as well. So I think it'll be into the 50s. So I'm going to take the over 47.5, Oregon and Utah.
This is a spooky one here. 2 good defenses, and Utah's offense has looked like, I mean, the bottom 3 offense in the country at points this season. It's been pretty awful for them. But like you said, at home, that place is rocking. If I was going to lean aside, I kind of like Utah in this game, especially getting the 6.5. They've won 23 straight at home or something like that, and they haven't lost with a home, like with fans in the crowd, since before the pandemic. Like, they just absolutely mollywop people in that stadium, and they have the better coach. Dan Lanning is goofy. He's tried to lose his team games every week. He lost them the Washington game, I think. So yeah, this is kind of spooky, but, you know, Oregon was a little slow out of the gates last week. I think they kind of get into that second half mode. They put up some points. I like a 27-31 game here, and that'll get you into the green there. So for my next one, I went with another awkward game. None of these P5 games spoke to me. There was bad numbers this week. I got another one here. It is a top 25 matchup though. Tulane at Rice. JT Daniels, pretty good at Rice. And we got little McCaffrey there. Like, that's a legit NFL receiver, not just because of his name. He's good. He's a sneaky, quick guy. This Rice passing offense is 11th in the country right now, and it's a mismatch. Tulane, like 120th in passing defense, I believe, something like that. They're just awful on defense. 118th in passing defense in yards, but they're really good against the run. Who cares? So it's a big number. I'm just liking the number here. I almost took Rice as my upset at plus 310, but I couldn't quite pull the trigger on that. So I'm going to swallow over a touchdown and a field goal at 10.5 at home. Have a good quarterback, have a good receiver, and we're playing a terrible secondary. So I expect a high-scoring game. It's going to be close. Tulane probably wins this game, but I just like Rice in a good spot. They've had a couple of bad breaks the last few weeks. Like, they dominated the UConn game, but they had 4 turnovers, I think, something like that. They had 4 turnovers against UConn to lose that game, but they dominated in the stats. They housed Tulsa last week. This Rice team is not bad. Like, they were a little flat against Texas, but they pushed Texas more than most people thought they would. And I'm just not a huge believer in Tulane. Like, they beat North Texas barely, beat them by a touchdown, barely beat Memphis. Like, they win games, but not necessarily blowing people out. 1-3 the last 4 against the spread. So I like Rice here, plus 10.5 at home.
Yeah, I don't know too much about either one of these teams, but Rice is pretty good against the spread, 5-2 so far. They are 4-3. They've played Texas. They beat Tulsa last week handily. They're plus 3.5 and kicked the shit out of them. So
housed.
And it was at Tulsa as well. So things are looking up at Rice. Tulane, they are coming off 5 straight wins. Still, I think getting a hook as well is kind of in your favor a little bit. 10 plus an extra hook is always massive when it comes to these football games. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, don't know much about either team. I'm just looking at the stats here. So, but JT Daniels, we've all watched him, USC and at Georgia. So he's a legit quarterback. So we will see. He's also at home. So they could definitely cover the 10.5. For my third game, I'm not in love with this either. I went back and forth because I think it bothered me a little bit that in the last game Mississippi State played, they scored a total between both teams 10 points.
That was a weird game.
I did not watch it. I'm sure it was ugly. This game is kind of just going against really what we're looking at here. Auburn is actually, minus 6.5 at home. I just think that's too much. I think both teams are pretty bad. When you look at the stats, it's funny. Mississippi State, they got the cover last week, but they were 7-point dogs.
Will Rogers didn't play, so is Will? I don't know what his injury status is. Is he back maybe this week? That might help.
I'm not exactly sure. Actually, I didn't know. Didn't even know.
Will Rogers did not play last week. That's why they scored 3 points or whatever they scored. There you go.
So there, yeah. So if that's the reason why, then if Will Rogers is playing, I have to take a look at it. I'm not going to change it now, but if he does play, then I do like getting 6.5 points at Auburn. Auburn not good against the spread either. They've lost 4 in a row. Georgia, they covered that game, but they got 14 points, so they stayed in there. At home against Georgia was a weird game after I think they played A&M, right? Yeah, A&M just before that, and they got destroyed. Really, this one is, Will Rogers plays great. If he doesn't, I still like getting 6.5. Just 2 not really good teams. Auburn's actually played decent against decent SEC opponents. Pretty good against Ole Miss. They only lost by 7. Then Georgia only lost by 7 as well. Not good against LSU. Not good against A&M. So I don't know. I kind of just like getting the points in this one. I think these teams are more even than we think. So I like getting the 6.5. I wish it was 7, but I'll take 6.5.
Yeah, 2 ugly teams, and they don't necessarily pass the ball great. whatsoever, kind of more run-focused teams, and the defenses aren't good. I think that last game against Arkansas, I think both team had a touchdown called back in a 10-7 or 10-3 game, which is like crazy to see that stuff. So I like Mississippi State here. I don't think Auburn, I mean, Auburn doesn't have a quarterback. Like, you can't, it's really hard to blow people out. And Mississippi, it's not like Arkansas is any slouch. Like, they can run the football, and they couldn't do anything last week either. So take away the Auburn run game. Mississippi State, maybe Will Rogers plays. We're getting big points here. I like this. This is an ugly 13-17 game, which is perfect for you with that one. All right, I'm going to move over to the NFL because since you aren't going to touch on the NFL, I'm going to take all the NFL games this week. This is an interesting matchup. Two bad teams last year. Two of the worst teams last year. Not quite the worst, but pretty bad teams overall. And one's okay this year, the other's bad, but both are coming off a bye. This is big. We got the Texans at the Panthers, your top two picks this week. I like this game a lot. Now, I smell a rat. -3.5 for Houston on the road. I smell a rat. What I do like is, though, Carolina changed offensive coordinators. They got a new play caller. I shouldn't say they changed. They changed play callers this week. They got a new play caller. Frank Reich's handed over to the offensive coordinator. And I think this is going to rejuvenate the Panthers offense. Now, they're going to have some new looks out there. They had a whole week to install it. You need to give Bryce Young time, maybe roll out the pocket. Also, this guy runs a lot of motion, apparently. I saw this one. Runs a lot of motion, helps create leverage. The Panthers wide receivers are the worst in the NFL in creating separation. So if you can get that motion going, you can get some separation. Adam Thielen still catching the ball. He's not as open as he used to be, but he's still got great hands. And Houston, CJ Stroud's your Rookie of the Year favorite right now. He's been awesome so far. Texans defense has been pretty good, though. But I think this is just kind of an open game in Carolina. The weather should be nice. They're going to get some points here. It's only 43.5 for the total. So I'm going to take the over on this one. I think just a new play caller, fresh stuff. There's not going to be much film on this kind of stuff. I think the Panthers actually score some points, and I love the Texans on scoring points. Texans have been under the last few weeks, but they've played some really good defenses. Played the Saints and the Falcons. They hung 30 on Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's secondary is bad, but their front seven is awesome. 37 against Jacksonville, another decent defense. So I think the Texans get me 30 here, 28. I really like this Texans team a lot, and I just need the Panthers to show up, and I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna show up. Everybody got a little healthy. We're feeling invigorated, getting our first win of the season, maybe. But 43.5 is just way too low for me. I don't think either of these defenses have shown enough for me to say they can stop anybody. Carolina gave up 42 and 42 in back-to-back games. Like, the Lions and Dolphins are, towards the top in offenses, but 42 is a shit ton of points. They gave up 21 to Minnesota, who was in offensive hell when they played them. So I like an over here, 43.5. I believe the number is, let me double check. Yeah, 43.5. So yeah, give me over 43.5 for Houston and Carolina.
I mean, I'm not going to have any 2 cents on this game because I don't have anything about the NFL because I don't even want to touch any of those games.
Retired.
But, pretty gnarly game. 2 rookie quarterbacks. I actually had Bryce Young with the under passing, but I'm going to go with a different prop in this one. That's one of my honorable mentions. I had him. It's 231.5. He's only done it one time this year, but coming off a bye, new offensive coordinator, that's going to help a little bit, hopefully. Hopefully get him in the swing of things because he hasn't looked great in the first few games that he's played in the league, but it always also comes with who's on your team and who's protecting you and who's calling the plays. So I think he's good enough to be a good quarterback. CJ Stroud's also shown that he can protect the ball and not throw too many picks. He's only thrown 1 this year.
And they got the ball back on that play. So he's never lost the ball.
Yeah, exactly. So I see some points in this. Hopefully that happens. I got Nico Collins. Hopefully he has a big game too. So we will guess we'll see about that. But for my prop, I'm actually going to go to your boys here. Big game last week against the 49ers. Kirk looked like, in prime time, actually looked pretty good, weirdly enough. And he's got one of his big guys down, obviously, Justin Jefferson not playing. He's still in the IR here, but he does have a guy who's actually starting to, play good ball. He has Jordan Addison, who caught 12 balls last week, he caught 7 balls last week. He had 10 targets, 123 yards. I think he's kind of the go-to guy now. I don't really see many other options for Kirk besides maybe Hawkinson.
Yeah.
He loves T.J. Hawkinson, so that's another guy. But Addison, maybe KJ gets a couple throws, and I mean Madison's he's
The
an
worst.
okay
The
back, but
worst. The
he has not been
worst.
great this year at all.
Can't catch
I
either.
drafted I drafted him on my fantasy team thinking he's going to be the workhorse, but they got Cam Akers now too, so he's not. They're splitting carries now, so that was a terrible pick. But I'm looking at this number, Jordan Addison, 58.5 yards. I love the over. He had 123 last week. He stole the ball away for a touchdown. Decent deep ball threat, and I don't think I mean, as long as Alexander's not on him for the Packers, I hope. I'm sure he will be, but
he's a little banged up, Alexander. He's got a back issue, but he's overrated, man. Jair Alexander's overrated as shit. Like, so overrated.
I mean, all I need is one deep ball, two deep balls, and I'll get the 58.5. So
had a few of those this year.
Yeah, so I mean, he's kind of a good threat. He's fast. He's one of those USC guys that Caleb Williams loved, and he's shown he can do it in JJ's place. So I'd probably even take it if it was up to 70 plus. I really like this. So I'm taking Jordan Addison over 58.5 yards receiving.
Yeah, a little bit of a trap spot, maybe you would think, after beating the Niners, upset, save the season, really keep them going. But it's border battle. It's the border battle. They're going to get up for the Packers. They got embarrassed in Lambeau last year. There was a cleat debacle. It was a whole thing. They're not going to have it. The weather's not supposed to be great in Green Bay, but Kirk Cousins actually has been awesome in Lambeau besides last year. 500 quarterback against Rodgers in Lambeau, just pretty good. And the Packers, God, that Jordan Love is not good at all. So Packers pretty bad. So I like that pick. I think Addison should have a good game. He beat me in fantasy last week, but it was okay since the Vikings won. I got another one here. We got speaking of rivalries, we have a rare conference rivalry, intercity rivalry. Jets Giants in New York this weekend. Giants are the home team in quotation marks. Tyrod Taylor still at quarterback. But the Jets coming off a bye, and it feels like the Jets have a little bit of juice. You know, they're 3-3. Zach Wilson, you're not losing us football games anymore. Our defense is top 2 in the league, and probably not 2 anymore. So I like this spot, but this team leans on the run. Leans on the running game, leans on Breece Hall. Breece Hall, little too much juice, minus 125 for his rushing total. So I had to pull that back a little bit. But we're going to take his combined total. Over 90.5 rushing and receiving yards. Breece Hall, one of the best running backs in the league. Giants 27th, I think, in rushing defense. Something like that. They don't do a great job against the run here. And the Jets are going to lean on this game. Like, they're fresh. They figured it out. Get Breece Hall the ball. Run the football. Churn out W's. Maybe hit Garrett Wilson once or twice to make a ridiculous catch. But I think there's a lot of solid momentum for the Jets here. And I just think the Giants, like, they've played so physical games back-to-back weeks. Shut down the Bills, shut down the Commanders. Commanders aren't very good. I think this is another kind of awkward spot for them where the Commanders don't really run the ball effectively, and neither do the Bills. So they've been able to cover up that weakness against them. They got kind of carved up against the Seahawks 3 weeks ago. So I love Breece Hall having a big day for the Jets. I think he goes well over, 68.5 is his rushing prop at minus 125. So we're just going to push that up to 90.5. I think Breece Hall rushes for 100 yards. Any other receptions or yards like that, all gravy. I think he has a big day for the Jets. So I love Breece Hall over 90.5 rushing and receiving.
Yeah, they signed Dalvin Cook earlier in the year before the season started, but he really hasn't done anything. He's kind of been 2, 3, 4, 4 downs a game, maybe touches, but yeah, Breece Hall's the man. He's quick. He can catch the ball. And I think, as we know, Zach Wilson, not really a down the field kind of guy. He's more of a quick curl, maybe some stuff across the field. But all in all, he's probably more of a check down guy, if anything. So, playing against the Giants, I feel like he'll get some yards. 90.5 is a lot, but if he's going to be the workhorse for the Jets, I feel like he can potentially get that. That's asking a lot for
what? Come on, my man bust out a 50
besides maybe
yard run. We're gonna bust a 50-yard tutty, 50-yard tutty for Breece. I'm calling it right now.
That would help. Yep.
All right. What's your honorable mentions? What's your honorable mentions?
Yeah. So, like we said earlier, not big with any of these games, but there were a few that kind of stuck out. Just didn't make it. Maryland minus 13.5 against Northwestern. We talked about this one. That's just I think Maryland's just a better team, and 13.5 is a lot. But I think Talia Tagovailoa is a decent quarterback. He is playing. He's going to play him in Chicago, so that was a tough game. And the weather, I think it's supposed to be in the 40s, so could be a decent running kind of game. I have Virginia plus 18.5 at Miami. It is at Miami. Virginia coming off a big win against North Carolina. Miami lost to North Carolina, so 18.5 seems like a lot of points for Miami to cover. So I do like Virginia sort of keeping it close, if not potentially an upset. But usually when a team beats a decent team like North Carolina and play another good team, they usually are a little stale. So I still think Miami will win. I just don't think they'll cover that full total. BYU and Texas over 50.5. Interesting kind of game here. Obviously, Quinn isn't playing. I think this is more of everyone thinks it's going to be the under, but I think the overall hit. I think
Malik's good. Malik is good. He's very
Malik
good.
is good, and if he goes down, they have they got the boy Arch. So they have decent quarterbacks that can play. I haven't seen Arch play, but
played you and me
knows?
in high school. That's all I know. You and me were lining up out there for those teams.
But yeah, they have a decent quarterback. BYU does too. They have Keaton Slovis, who played at USC. So I think they can, be 28-24 kind of game, maybe, depending on if Malik actually comes out and balls. He definitely has the ability to, so could be interesting. I'll make this quicker. But Stanford plus 26.5 at Washington. It just seems like too much.
I like that. I like that one a lot.
Washington they looked terrible last week. Stanford, came in and beat Colorado a few weeks ago. It just seems like a lot of points for Washington to cover. They are. Let's see. Are they at home? Wait.
No, they're
yeah,
at
they're at
Stanford.
home. No, they're on the road actually.
Yeah. Penix
So
has looked
26
hurt. He looks hurt, and Washington's not good against the bottom of the Pac-12. So I like that one a lot, actually.
And then, like I said, Bryce Young under 231 yards, 231 and a half yards passing. He's only, like I said, only hit that number one time this year. But things could change coming off a bye. So I wasn't huge on that one, but those are my honorable mentions.
We should call these dishonorable mentions. How we feel about these picks this week. Kansas getting 9.5 at home against Oklahoma. I'm a little scared of that one because Oklahoma did get a scare against UCF. So, but I like Kansas a lot. It's a big number. Beam is not really a downgrade from Daniels since he's been taking all the reps for the last few weeks. He's good. Florida at 14.5. We just don't know with Georgia. Bauer's down. That's their go-to guy. It'll be interesting to see that one. Keep an eye on that one, maybe. Kentucky plus 3.5 against Tennessee at home. The Wildcats have dominated I shouldn't say dominated. They've been really good against Tennessee in Lexington the last 3 times. It's been 4-3-3 the last 3 matchups. And I don't think Milton's any good at quarterback. They faded late against Bama, and Bama beat them down. And Kentucky's coming off a bye, a much needed bye. So I like Kentucky there, plus 3.5. Air Force 14's pretty scary against Colorado State, but Air Force is like number 19 undefeated, and they're playing for a New Year's Six bowl. So I like them a lot, actually. And then UNC minus 11, it literally went up. It was 11. It's 11.5 right now against Georgia Tech. Still can win the ACC. I think this is a big bounce back spot. Drake May, you have a big game and he finishes out. There's going to be some serious talk amongst NFL guys whether you take May over Caleb, because Caleb has just looked like a dumpster fire the last 2 weeks against actual defenses. Now, there's lots of things going on there. So I like that one a lot. And then James Madison minus 20.5. This is a massive number, but they're not postseason eligible. Multiple teams are petitioning for them to be eligible because of the stupid transition rule. They're ranked 25 in the country. They're undefeated, and Old Dominion is just like not good. James Madison is a juggernaut for where they play football. So I like them a lot. It's just a way too scary of a number to bet on James Madison. But all right, let's get it. Give me your upset of the week.
So you're probably going to hate this one. I wasn't in love with it. But we're going to do it.
I looked at this one.
What is it? What?
I don't know. Tell me.
So Pac-12.
Oh.
Colorado, UCLA.
Okay.
I don't love it. It's a lot of points. I think that was kind of the lure for me. 17.5 is the spread. Is UCLA getting the spread? Dante Moore, their freshman quarterback, not playing. He didn't play last week either. He looked like the golden boy first couple weeks, and he must be hurt. I think he's hurt. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but he is not playing. I believe it's another freshman quarterback playing. Well, actually, redshirt. Wait to the back. The redshirt junior Ethan Garbers is playing. I just think Colorado coming off an unfortunate loss to Stanford. They did get a bye. I think coming off bad losses so far, they've played pretty well. Even coming off, they came off a horrible loss against Oregon. They were absolutely outmatched, but played USC and lost by just a touchdown, and they played decently well. And then kind of came back and beat Arizona State by 3. But regardless, I think 17.5. I would probably take the spread in this one. I'm kind of just picking the number here. I just don't think that team is just going to fold against a third string quarterback in UCLA. They are playing in Los Angeles, so that is a little scary. But I think Shadur's kind of starting to figure out that it's not all fun and games here in the Pac-12, and kind of has to start balling a little bit. So I kind of I don't love it, sort of like. I've like I said, gone through these lines 3 or 4 times, and I just couldn't really find anything that really stood out. So I like Colorado plus 575. That's a lot. That's not going to get me too many points in this format, but I just see them coming off a terrible loss against Stanford. I think Prime's going to have their team ready to go coming off a bye. Obviously, they were at the Lakers game a few nights ago or whatever. So they're not all on football. They don't care that much about it, but they are celebrities now. They're making millions of dollars just being students. So I guess they can do that. But I can't really say much more about this. It's plus Colorado plus 575. We're looking for a prayer here.
Dion grew the beard out, looking like Santa Claus a little bit, got the grays going. Maybe they need something here. Travis Hunter's back. He's healthy. They got the extra week with him. So maybe the offense is something. It's just, God, that UCLA defense is so scary. They're like legit scary. Somehow a Chip Kelly team plays defense and not so much offense in today's day and age. I don't love this one either. I just have a really bad feeling about this game. I'm going to the NFL. This game just screams trap game. Ravens at the Cardinals, laying 9.5 here in the desert. Just a huge win against the Lions, 2 considered top teams, and they beat the hell out of Detroit. And Arizona, they're 5th in scoring in the first half, like 5th in the league. This team is really good in the first half, and they just fold in the second half. They just always fall apart. Kind of did the same thing against Seattle, pushed Seattle, kind of dominated that game. Just, it feels like it's a talent issue in Arizona, not an effort issue or a coaching issue. It just feels like they're limited across the board. This just screams trap game to me. Baltimore coming back from London 2 weeks ago. They have a big win at home, and then they got to look ahead. They got the Seahawks at home, and then they got the Brownies at home. So they're just thinking, we're going to go hang out to Arizona. We're going to beat this team. It is what it is. And I think Arizona's due for a win. They beat Dallas at home this year. They're due for another win. So, and the number's really good. It's plus 350. It was plus 370. It's gone down a little bit. So maybe people are just kind of liking that number there at plus 350. We see in the NFL every week, like, I'm sure the Vikings were well plus over 350 against the Lions or something like that. Or against the Niners, I should say, on Monday night. They beat them. So I have a good feeling about the Cardinals here. They haven't been the worst team in football. Like, they're bad, but they're not a disaster. And I think just Baltimore gets caught lacking. They do this sometimes. We've seen this team double-digit lead heading into the fourth quarter, and they blow it. Like, they're not good with double-digit leads in the fourth quarter under Harbaugh. So I'm going with my gut. My gut says the Cardinals are going to show up for me this week. Yeah, I'm going with that. Josh Dobbs. Go Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, when you get a line that's close to 10, typically I feel like you pick the underdog, because there's not many games that are blowouts in the NFL. And Baltimore, I mean, they had kind of a stinker against against the Steelers, but they've come back and played pretty good ball. Really good game against the Lions last week. But like you said, Josh Dobbs, he's not as bad as we thought he was. I just remember him in Tennessee. We all thought he was kind of a joke, but decent player, good professional. So, I mean, at home, we'll see. Anything can happen in the NFL. So, literally, like you said, with the Vikings beating the 49ers, literally anything can happen. And that was kind of an ass kicking a little bit, too. Brock Purdy looked completely lost. So, the Steelers made Lamar Jackson look completely lost, too. So, things can happen. Teams can't show up. Teams can show up. Never know what happens. So, with the NFL, I mean, getting a 350 spot, that's not too bad. But I don't know. I think both of our picks are kind of prayers a little bit. So,
yeah, we've been really hot too. We've hit like 4 in the last 2 weeks on upsets, something like that. 3. We've been really good on upsets the last few weeks. So a lot to play for, lots of fun. Somebody's gonna be spinning that wheel of pain coming up here. So should be a lot of fun. Make sure if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. New sports content every single day. And
want to
we'll
recap?
see you. Oh yeah. Oh, thank you.
Do a quick
I'm a
recap
bad host. Scott, recap it. I'm a bad host. See?
Yeah, we'll do a quick Kansas State -17 against Houston. Oregon, Utah over 47.5. Mississippi State +6.5 at Auburn. Colorado +575 against UCLA, and Jordan Addison over 58.5 yards receiving.
All right, awesome. I got Rice, not Russ. Rice +10.5 versus Tulane. I got Army -9.5 versus UMass. I got the Texans and the Panthers over 43.5. I have Breece Hall over 90.5 rushing plus receiving yards. And I got the Arizona Cardinals +350 against the Baltimore Ravens. All right, now, like this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already. We got new sports content every single day, backyard bookies every single Friday, and we'll see you guys next week.